delete it all.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. It's Katie and today I'm going to be giving you guys an in-depth review, comparison, and tutorial using the brand new Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. There are tons and tons and tons of people putting out reviews and videos and showing you guys swatches and everything, and I'm going to be doing that all here in this video as well. So in case you're only interested in seeing one certain part of this video, I will have timestamps labeled down below in the description bar that you can just scroll to watch that certain part of the video in case you don't want to watch it all. But I really would appreciate if you did watch it all because I love doing reviews on products. It's one of my favorite types of videos to do. So with that being said, I want to give you guys some really quick information about the palette. So this retails for $42 and it can be found in Sephora, Ulta, Macy's, and Dillard's, I think, and also on Anastasia Beverly Hills website. So this is what the palette looks like. It is absolutely beautiful. I was a big fan of the Modern Renaissance packaging itself. Let me just grab it. So this is what the Modern Renaissance looks like, and this is what Subculture looks like. So as you can see, they look very, very similar. However, the colors are different, but I love the contrast of the orange yellow text with this like teal blue color. It's just absolutely beautiful. This is what the inside of the palette looks like. Again, a gorgeous palette. Anastasia, they know how to do makeup. It does come with a little brush like this, and I do actually really like these brushes. I use mine all the time. I've got a few in here just from previous palettes that I bought. So yeah, today in this video I'm actually going to be comparing the Subculture palette to Modern Renaissance and also to a Master palette by Mario. And in case you guys didn't know, this is probably one of my favorite palettes. The Master palette is just absolutely gorgeous. So as you can see, I do already have my makeup done. So I am gonna give you guys a rundown on this palette very, very quickly. Now, one of the main issues that people are having with this palette is the amount of fallout and while I will admit that there is a substantial amount of fallout, it's not with every single shadow, and I don't even think it's with every single palette. And I personally feel like the Modern Renaissance palette has a ton of kickback to it, and I think it might even be more than the Subculture palette, at least for me personally. Now, I'm not really sure what happened with this palette, what went wrong in production, but I'm assuming that these are all done in batches, and it's very possible that some people got their hands on bad batches and some people didn't. I feel like I got a good palette. I did not have any issues with my eyeshadows blending out. I did not have a huge issue with fallout. There is some fallout, but that's to be expected with any Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. I kind of knew going into buying this palette that there was going to be kickback and fallout. It is very comparable in the kickback amount to the Modern Renaissance. I don't really feel like the whole palette overall has a ton of kickback, but there are a few shades in here, and I will show you guys me dipping my brush into each eyeshadow and swatches later on in the video. But there are certain eyeshadows in here that do have a bit more kickback than others. I feel like people just watched a few reviews but didn't really give the palette itself a chance. Just because somebody had a bad issue with the palette does not necessarily mean that you are gonna have a bad issue with this palette. Now, there are 3 YouTubers that I trust 100% when it comes to reviews and swatches and stuff like that, and those people are Alyssa Ashley, Raw Christy Beauty, and Samantha Rondeval. I think that's how you say her last name. If it's not, I'm so sorry, Samantha, but just know I'm a big fan. I love you. But anyways, those are 3 of the only YouTubers that I truly trust 100%. Like when I want an opinion on something, I normally typically tend to go to their videos first before anyone else. I know that Alyssa and Christy both had issues with their palette with the way it was blending and with the amount of fallout they were getting, but Samantha, she went into a lot of depth talking about her palette as well, and she did a few different looks and just really showed you guys how she uses the palette. So that is a great video in case you want to check it out to see how the palette worked for somebody who actually, I think, maybe perhaps liked it, but like I'm not mad at this palette. I don't hate it. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the comparison. All right guys, so now I have you guys sitting in front of me. This is like right in front of where I filmed. This is like my little filming table. So I'm gonna zoom you out just a tiny bit and show you guys an overview of the palette. This is what it looks like. If you notice that the quality has changed, that is because I am filming this on a different camera. My other camera died, so this is what I've got to film on. So we're gonna start off by going in with the brushes that the palette came with. We're gonna start off with Dawn. Dawn is one of the first matte shadows. I believe that it's only the matte shadows that really has any issue. So I'm gonna start by just barely dabbing my brush in, so just like that. And as you can see, there is some kick up to it, but it's nothing that's like too bad. I'm just gonna quickly bring in the Modern Renaissance palette, and we'll do the same exact thing to Golden Ochre. So just dab my brush in like that. As you can see, there was quite a bit of kick up there, and I'll just zoom y'all out so y'all can see the palettes side by side. There is a tiny bit more of kick up to the Subculture palette, which is here on the top, than the Modern Renaissance palette. I touched them with the exact same brush, the exact same pressure and everything. So there is a tiny bit more kick up, I would say. I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to tell, but there definitely was a tiny bit more. So now I'm gonna zoom you guys right back in, and we will go on to Destiny. Wow, that one had a lot of kick up to it. And then I'm only gonna do this to the matte shadows because I mean the shimmer ones are very creamy, but we'll move on to All Star. So All Star in my palette doesn't really have any kick up. As you can see, I'm touching it quite a few times. And I just want to really quickly compare that to Love Letter from the Modern Renaissance palette. As you can see, we'll even do Red Ochre. As you can see, that is a lot more fallout or kick up than what came on my All Star. So now I'm gonna move on to Mercury, and we'll just dab again. That one had quite a bit of kick up. Next, moving on to Axis. Again, a lot of kick up. Not as much as Mercury, but definitely had a lot more than I was expecting. All right, next I'm gonna move on to Roxy. So again, nowhere near as much kick up as other people are having, but there is some there. And as you can see, my brush is coated with just those tiny little taps that I'm doing. Moving on to Fudge. Next, we're moving on to New Wave. I just want to test something. So I just tapped my brush in like 2 or 3 times, and that is the amount of kick up that I got. It's nowhere near as bad as other people are having. Untamed, there you go. Edge. And last but not least, Rowdy. But as you can see, my palette does have kickback on a few of the shades. The main shades that I get the kickback from is Mercury and Destiny. A little bit from Axis, a little bit from Untamed, barely anything from New Wave or Edge. So now I'm just gonna really quickly go in and tap the Modern Renaissance palette. I'm gonna zoom you guys in a little bit more. There we go. So I'm just gonna tap each eyeshadow and then we'll quickly wipe off my brush. So there you go. Every single one of the eyeshadows in the Modern Renaissance palette has kickback except Real Gar. Real Gar is really the only one that I noticed that didn't really have anything too major, but there you go. Golden Ochre, Raw Sienna, Love Letter, Warm Taupe, those are probably the worst ones in this palette. Oh, and Veneer, or whatever it's called. Those are probably the ones that have the most kickback to it. But I just want to show you guys that it is a normal thing in the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. And to be honest with you, the Modern Renaissance to me has more. So I'm going to move on to the Master Palette by Mario. And just show you guys really quickly, I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did with the Modern Renaissance palette. Just going to quickly tap into each eyeshadow. So there you go. I applied the same exact pressure and use the same brush for each eyeshadow, but just in case you guys don't believe me, I'm going to redo it with this one. There's kickback. There is a lot of kickback in every single one of these eyeshadow palettes. But I gotta tell you, looking at it from afar, let me just bring you guys out some. Like pairing the eyeshadows, I don't think I'm gonna be able to fit all the eyeshadows in here. But looking at it, I mean, every single one of these palettes has kickback to it. And that is just an Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. Mine, I don't really feel like has more or less than the other. Obviously, there are a couple shades like the Fudge shade. Destiny has a ton, and so does Mercury. I'm very gently pressing into these eyeshadows. Obviously, if you're going to dig into an eyeshadow with your brush like this, you're going to get kickback. And there, I didn't even get as much kickback as other people are getting, and my brush is still coated. And I just want to show you guys what happens. I'm going to go into Real Gar, which is very similar to Roxy from the Modern Renaissance palette, and just show you guys. You're gonna get kickback no matter what you do. Let's move on to the Mario palette. Fifth Avenue, Bronx, Paris. Like, I mean, they all have a lot of kickback when you're digging into your palette with your brush. This is gonna do it for the comparison part of the video. If you would like to see swatches up next, then please keep watching. So really quickly before we move into swatches, I want to give you guys a little bit of advice, and just keep this in mind whenever you're watching this video and watching future videos, whether it's on the Subculture palette or any palette in general, or any product in general, really. When it comes to swatches, you don't always need to rely on the swatch alone to know how a product is going to perform. And that is simply because a product could swatch absolutely beautifully, but could perform crappy on your eyes or your lips or wherever you're using it. And a product that swatches absolutely crap could perform amazingly. And don't always base your purchases on swatches alone. I would really recommend you go to the store, purchase it, and play with it at home. And then if you don't like it or you're having issues with it, you can go and return it. I don't really get the whole hype behind swatches, but I do it anyway because I know that people like to see them. So with that being said, let's move on into the swatches. Let's just really quickly show you guys how I do swatches with my finger and with a brush, and then I will do it row by row. So obviously the first row and then the second row. So I just rub my finger in there a couple of times, get the pigment on, and then alright, so there is the first color. You can barely see it on my skin, but now I'm going to show you how I do a brush swatch. So I literally just take my brush in there, 1, 2, 3. As you can see, it does have product on it, and we'll just put it right next to it. And that like didn't even do anything. Hello? So there you go, you can't see that. We'll do a couple more. So I'll do the next color, which is Dawn. So just swirl my finger in a couple of times, and we'll place that right next to Cube. So that one is a little bit more visible. So now we'll do the brush swatch. Let me just clean off my brush really quickly. And we'll go 1, 2, 3. And right next to the finger swatch. The next shade is Destiny. One, two, three. So I'm gonna finish up the first row of swatches and I will be right back. Alright guys, so we have the first row of swatches. Right here we have Cube, Dawn, Destiny, Adorn, All-Star, Mercury, and Axis. So there you go, there is finger swatches on the left and brush swatches on the right. Alright guys, and here is the last row. So right here we have Roxy, Electric, Fudge, New Wave, Untamed, Edge, and Rowdy. Here's the swatches. As you can see, very, very pigmented, but probably the eyeshadow that gives the most kickback was definitely Mercury in my palette. Well, I'm just gonna start off by priming my eyelids with the e.l.f. eyeshadow primer, and just going to apply this how I normally would. To set my under eye area with the Airspun powder, just because Anastasia Beverly Hills is very well known for fallout in the eyeshadows, and from the reviews that I've heard about this palette, I've got a really, really bad feeling that eyeshadow is going to get everywhere. So I'm just gonna go ahead and set underneath my eyes with the Coty Airspun powder. I normally would not take this step, but I feel like it is necessary, and I'm really gonna be packing it on, kind of like that. Now, for the most talked about palette currently on the internet, here we go. Alright, so in my opinion, like my initial thoughts about this palette, the palette is absolutely beautiful. I have seen so many people have so much to say about this palette that they don't like the color scheme, blah, 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 blah. Me personally, I think the color scheme is actually beautiful. I think I get like a very like retro, yeah, like a very like retro vibe from this palette, and I'm really excited to use it. Well, I was really excited when I got it. I'm gonna use like this color right here, this like really pretty like teal color, maybe Untamed, which is right there. I kind of want to use New Wave and Edge, and I'm definitely going to be using Electric. I'm gonna start off by going in with Dawn, which is the second color in the palette. It's this one right here, and I'm just gonna go in with like a fluffy crease brush. This is a Morphe M502, and I barely tapped my brush in there, and look at how much pigment, look at how much eyeshadow is on that brush. Like, the pigment is insane. So I actually think that like you might need to go like lighter, especially if you're like heavy-handed. But yeah, so we're just gonna start off, and I'm just going to start applying this. This color is blending out beautifully, or at least for me it is. I'm not having any issues with it. Definitely tapped off that brush before I started applying it. The next shade that I'm gonna use is going to be New Wave, which is this really pretty orange color right here. And I'm just gonna take that on a clean blending brush. This one is from Wet n Wild. I don't know. Like placing my brush exactly where I want the pigment to go, which is directly into my crease. And then I start blending that outwards. So mine are blending pretty well. I'm not noticing any problems. I'm just gonna go in with a clean Morphe M518 and just kind of blend it out a little bit and see if I can really like diffuse the colors, which it looks like it's doing a pretty good job to me. I'm not noticing any problems. Like mine, I don't know, I don't see any of the issues that anybody was like complaining about with mine so far. I'm gonna take the brush that the palette came with, and I'm just gonna go in with a little bit of Edge, so this shade right here, and no fallout. And I have product on my brush, as See, and there was like no fallout. I'm just gonna take a little bit of edge, like I said, and I'm just going to start blending that into my crease. A little bit higher this time. So now we're gonna move into some of the color in the palette. I'm gonna go in with this e.l.f. brush. This is like a brush that I like to use on my outer corner. This is an e.l.f. blending eye brush. It just looks like this, kind of like a little bit thicker than a pencil brush. All right, so I'm gonna go in with Untamed first, which is the lighter green in the palette. This one right here, it's like an army green almost. No, Destiny is more of an army green. Untamed is a little bit more like on the bluer side. So I think I'm actually gonna go in with Destiny first since it is lighter, because I like to work my way up. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of that shade and I'm just gonna start working that into my outer V. Whoa, I did not mean to put that much. Okay. Definitely a little bit goes a long way with this. So I'm just gonna take a little angled brush from e.l.f. this, and I'm just gonna blend that out. I think I'm gonna do a what's it called? A halo eye. So I'm just applying a little bit more product. Gonna leave the center of my eye open. I just now decided to do this, so there is some eyeshadow on there, but that's fine. I'm just gonna try to leave just a tiny bit of my lid space. I don't even know why I'm doing this. Halo eyes do not look good on me. I'm gonna go in with an Morphe M411. It's just a smaller color. Just a smaller blending brush like this. So I'm just gonna start blending, always making sure I go over harsh lines. I think I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Axis on that first angled brush. So I'm just gonna, oh, that's beautiful. Like, look at the pigment. Like, I almost like don't like it because of how pigmented it is, because I'm having to be so careful right now. Like, this is definitely not a beginner's palette. I'm gonna go back in with a little bit of New Wave and add that into my crease, because I feel like there's just, these lines are a little just too much right here. Alright, that's what we got so far. So everything is blending out pretty well. I think that the more you add on your brush, the harder it is definitely going to be to blend out. Alright, so now I'm going to go in with Electric, and I want to see how it applies before I use a setting spray. Normally I would always use a setting spray with like any shimmery metallic looking eyeshadow, but I do want to see how it applies with just the brush. Alright, I'm gonna go in with setting spray because I'm not liking this. I'm just gonna take some MAC Fix Plus. Oh yeah. I'm gonna try with my finger also. I'm gonna go in with my Morphe 35O palette, and I'm just gonna take the first shade in the palette, which is this one right here. I'm gonna highlight my brow bone area. Alright guys, so I'm back. I got my lashes on and my eyeliner. This is what the eye look is currently looking like. And I'm kind of digging it. Like, I don't think it looks bad at all. Go ahead and finish up my eyes. I'm just gonna take my palette and I'm gonna take that little angled brush that I was using and kind of just stamp that color right there. I also mixed in a tiny bit of Untamed. Hello focus, thank you. I also mixed in a tiny bit of Untamed with that Axis color, and now I'm just gonna take that brush that the palette came with And I'm just gonna take some of electric, and I'm actually gonna just kind of put that in the very center. So, then I'm gonna go in with a mixture of New Wave and Edge right underneath that. And then I'm gonna add some mascara, just using Maybelline the Colossal Big Shot. This is my current favorite mascara. So I'm not gonna go in with like a super black liner. I'm just gonna go in with this dark brown liner. This is the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Pencil in Stag. All right, I'm actually gonna take a little bit of electric and put that on my inner corner. All right, there's my eye look. Alright, so I want to give you guys my final thought on the Subculture palette. Me personally, I like mine. I don't really have too big of an issue with it. Like I said, there is some fallout and some kickback to it. It's nothing that's going to prevent me from using it in the future, and it doesn't make it unusable. I do understand that, you know, not everybody may have got a palette that was good or that, you know, worked properly for them. And all I can really say is that if you are going through what some other people are going through with their palettes, reach out to Anastasia Beverly Hills customer service, and I'm sure they would be more than happy to help you in the like return refund process. And yeah, that is all I can really say. Other than if you're looking into buying this palette, maybe wait a couple of months. Since the palette is a permanent item in the collection, you will be able to get your hands on this at any time. So maybe wait until they put out like a couple of batches and then go pick up one. I mean, I get the formula's new and they're trying to figure out everything. I get it. About formulas, like, I can't give you too much info on the formula. I'm not a chemist, and to be honest with you, I don't even really care about the formula that much. I know some people do, so I mean, that's completely up to you. Me personally, I don't really care too much about the formula. I just care if the product works good or not, and for me, it did happen to work well, so that's all I can really say. I mean, that's just my honest opinion on this palette. Like I was kind of hoping that it would work bad just so I could see what everybody was talking about. I enjoyed using my palette today. I think the look I came up with is very pretty, very different for me. I don't normally tend to wear like greens. If I do wear a pop of color, it'll only be like purple, maybe some pink or blue, but never really green, so I really do like it. But yeah, I think that's gonna be all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful in some way. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to click the little gray bell button that is right beside the subscribe button. That way you will be notified anytime a new video of mine goes live. I'm gonna leave you guys here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.